at a start. Now we're recording. Well, it's good to see you, see your faces, and have this opportunity to do some brainstorming, do some sharing of resources and ideas around Advent and Christmas in the time of COVID and Zoom worship and Facebook Live worship and YouTube Live and whatever the platform you are using. So what I'd like us to do is use mutual invitation to uh, meet one another. We do have people from both Northern New England and Boston joining in. And when you're invited, name what church you are connected with, and maybe just a brief word about what you are hoping for, so we can hear what everybody's hoping for in this time. So before we jump into that, let's start with prayer. Oh, holy, holy, holy God. We often talk about Advent as this time of waiting and preparation, waiting for your word to burst into this world, waiting for something new to happen, waiting for your desires to shine as bright as the star over Bethlehem. But we've been doing a lot of waiting this year. Waiting in our homes, waiting for numbers to go down, waiting to be able to see beloved faces again, waiting for safety in a vaccine. There's been a lot of waiting. So as we consider a very different Advent and Christmas, help us also see how you are already at work, that you're not waiting, that you are already breaking in and through and among us. Help us be renewed in our own souls, in our own creative places, so that we can help guide your people in this holy season. Be with us in this time and in all the days, just as you always are, just as you've always promised to be. Help us know your comforting, guiding, star bright, shining presence. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so we're going to use mutual invitation to introduce ourselves to each other. My name is Cindy Coleman, and I get to serve you all as a resource presbyter for, just a little bit longer. And it's good to have people from both presbyteries here. So Lee Wen, I'd like to invite you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Li Wenling. I'm one of the ruling elders at the Taiwan Presbyterian Church of Greater Boston.
And go ahead and invite somebody else.
Sally, you're right next to me on the screen.
And Sally, you're muted.
It told me if I held the space key that then you'd be able to hear me, but it didn't work. Anyway, so I'm Sally Newhall, and I'm from Nashua Presbyterian Church up in Northern New England. Deb.
Hi, everyone. I'm Debbie McKinley, and I'm the pastor at the East Craftsbury Church, where it was snowing this morning, but it won't be long. We'll be snowshoeing and skiing. Yay. I guess what I'm looking for, we've got a little Advent group going at our church, and we've started the ideas, and I think we're going to focus music-wise on Advent hymns, but anyway, I'll be just looking forward to everybody's ideas and how that feeds our energy here. Tracy.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm Tracy Weatherhog, and I'm at the Paulet Community Church in Vermont. It's a UCC congregation, so I have dual standing. And I'm here because I love worship and love planning, but in this time, I mean, lots of different things, but I'm kind of at a loss as to what we're going to do. We're doing a Facebook Live service currently, so just trying to think about how we'll utilize that opportunity as well. So I'm also trying to get some lunch, so I will be not chewing in front of you, but Heather.
Good afternoon. I'm Heather Doss. I'm the pastor at the Elliott Presbyterian Church in Lowell. And I am looking forward to, I'm wondering if anybody's thought about Advent preaching, if you're using the lectionary, if you've got any preaching plans. Also wondering about Christmas Eve services, how people are planning to handle that. And we have a fun plan for sending some things to our congregation for Advent, so I hope to have a chance to share about that. And I will invite Rob Mark.
Thanks, Heather. Thanks, Cindy, for holding the space. Good to see you all. Rob Mark at Church of the Covenant in Boston. And I come with very little resources for you all, just a hunger to find more, because I can't, it feels like years from now, Advent. So anyway, I'm excited just to brainstorm together. And Jan, I'd invite you.
Unmute. Okay, there we go. It took me a while to unmute. I'm Jan Howe, and Peter Howe's here too. He's getting ready to sign on. I'm the pastor of the Antrim, New Hampshire Presbyterian Church. I have dual standing because I'm an ordained UCC pastor, and everyone's mentioned everything. I'm feel dry and just want ideas and energy to go. Peter, you want to say anything?
And we're looking probably to do some sort of a Bible study during the 4 weeks of Advent too. I think that's the other thing. I'm a retired Presbyterian minister.
And Diane is our last square.
For the last square.
Okay. I'm Diane Hoppy Hugo. I'm at Midcoast Presbyterian Church in Topsom, Maine. And you can sort of tell I'm having trouble keeping things straight in my head. So that's why I'm here, is to you know, pick all your brains and put it in mine so I have a full brain. I have worship team members here too, which is why I'm masked.
Cool. That's awesome. Great. We are going to use the chat. So if you are aware of resources, the resources you feel like sharing, put them in the chat. I will share it. I will save it and then collate it so it's usable. Because if it, yeah, anyway, and then post that on the website. As you can see, we've got some resources already in the chat. Sally's put a bunch in, and I put into Facebook groups that are talking about Advent. Those are at the top. Hopefully everyone can see the whole chat, regardless of when you joined in. Nope. All right, well, I will save it and get it to you. I'm going to put down everybody who's here. Well, Heather said that they've got a fun thing they're planning to do. Why don't we start by hearing a little bit about that?
Thanks. So I don't know that it's a particularly novel, but I think I'm pleased with the way we've pulled it together. We decided to send Advent kits to every household in our congregation, similar to the boxes that you've shared from, I think, was that Ferncliff, Cindy?
Yeah.
Only we managed to pull ours off for $9 a household, which is much more in our budget than $29 a household, which I think is what their kits were costing. So what we're sending each family is a box of purple and pink paper candles and a set of little just clear candle holders. They're very simple. And then families can arrange them themselves however they want. It's not, we didn't buy the wreath part, it was too expensive. And we'll enclose a liturgy that's just weekly, We originally were going to do daily devotion books, and we just decided nobody was really, very few people were going to engage with a daily devotional. So I'd be happy, but I can share some links to different ones we looked at that we thought were good. And I'll share the link for where we bought the candles. They're taper candles, and they were $2.50 per household for the 4-pack. So really cheap, from Catholic Gifts and Supplies or something. And the candle holders were about $1 a piece. And so I had to get 4 for each household, but that was the cheapest way I could find to do it. That's the only part of the kit. So week 1 will be the Advent candles. Week 2, we're using Christmas ornaments that you can color that have Advent themes on them from Illustrated Ministry. And it's $20 for the PDF, and you can photocopy it as many times as you want. So $20 for the whole congregation. Week 3, we're doing Christmas cards. So every household gets 1 Christmas card with an insert inside of it. And the insert says things like, what's your favorite Christmas song? What's your favorite Christmas tradition? What's going to be different for you this Christmas? How can I pray for you? So the idea is and they'll get that with an envelope with an address already on it from another member of the congregation. So it's just sort of random. So you fill out the little thing, put it in the card. We're going to pre-stamp them even. So I bought those cards from UNICEF. The card and the stamp together will be about $1.55 per household. And then the 4th week, we're going to ask people to collect supplies for our homeless ministry. So that'll all get packaged into a little gift bag. And then I'm asking, they don't know this yet, I'm asking my elders and deacons to hand deliver them to all of the members of the congregation, because we can't afford to mail them. And that means each elder or deacon will have to deliver 5 or 6 bags. So it's not a lot. But I feel super excited about this. It's, I think, nice for everybody to have something tangible. We've been working really hard on a homeless ministry, and sometimes I feel like my congregation might think I care more about our homeless people than I do about them. And so I really want people to feel, so the whole budget for us, we have 104 households, is right around $1,000, which would be pricey in a normal year, but we haven't spent as much money on other things this year. So we just decided to go for it. So that's what's inspired. The rest of my Advent and Christmas plan is way up in the air. So, I'll drop all those links in the chat. So if you want to buy the same products, you can.
Awesome. And welcome, Mia. It's good to see you. If you don't mind just saying who you are real fast and what you might hope to get from this time together. And you are muted.
Hi, I'm Mia Dyson. I'm pastoring the Wales Presbyterian Church in Maine. Sorry, I'm late. I was doing battle with a dead battery, but a very kind man in a truck bailed me out. So, yeah. We are developing kind of a new format for worship. I'm leading worship in my sanctuary by myself on Zoom. And then a small component of the congregation is next door in the youth center, up to 10 people. It's a very large space and it has radiant floor heating, so there's no blowing air. So we're hoping that there are a few people who are really not equipped to do Zoom. And so we've hung a screen there for people to watch. So that's the hybrid method that we're now engaged in. And so I've been thinking about Advent and what would be helpful resources given how we're worshiping. So
cool. Wow. Debbie.
Deb's fine. So Heather, I think that's really wonderful. I don't think you should feel bad about everything else being up in the air, because you have nailed this one. So hats off to you. I do have a question. Are you gonna deliver these bags weekly, or is it's all in one? All 4 weeks are in one.
Yep. So each week is going to have a little tag on it that says this is for week 1, open on whatever day.
Okay.
They're not going to be wrapped, but like just a little note stuck to it that says, and then it has any instructions that are necessary.
Okay. So it doesn't have a little like a thing that goes wrong if they don't open it on the right day.
I mean, if you send the Christmas card a week early or a week late, it doesn't really matter. The main thing is I wanted them to have the candles and the holders before the first Sunday of Advent so that everybody can light Advent candles during our online worship. I didn't want families to have to try to find their own.
Yeah, that's great. We loved that Advent in a Box idea. Thank you, Cindy, for sending that. Ferncliff is quite a conference center. If you've never been there, it's a really interesting place. But it was pricey. So Heather, we're sort of starting to think about that. So thank you for your ideas. We're going to encourage people to use their own candles, but it might be a really good idea for us to have some spares just in case people want or need them. We sort of like the idea of a menagerie of candles and having it look very organic for people.
Yeah, I agree. My fear was that people wouldn't do it.
Sure.
We've got a lot of families with children and working 2 jobs, and asking them to go out and get candles just seemed like wasn't going to happen for them.
Anyway, thank you for that idea.
Sally?
So I didn't post it, I can't remember the link was, but I actually found that there's a YouTube about how to make Advent in a box. And it's a way to, and one pastor I was talking with at some online thing said in his church, there's one person who's agreed to make them, but it's like the box unfolds and it makes an Advent wreath with tea lights in it. So it's an Advent wreath in a box. It says Advent in a box. It's really just a wreath. I looked at the directions and decided it's beyond my patience. But it was a really cute little idea, just using tea lights. And what they did is they just put a color around the edge of the tea light, pink or purple, instead of having a taper. It was just a tea light that had color around the edge, indicating what it was. And it looked like a wreath when it was open. It was kind of nice. In terms of, I've been collecting ideas, and one that I heard actually 2 months ago that has taken root in my heart is, and one of the other churches here in Nashua is going to have a gingerbread nativity house competition. And so I'm going to do that as well. And then what I want people to do is send me pictures of their gingerbread nativities. And then because we're doing Zoom worship, I'm going to put them into the worship service at different points and have them be there with us. But I've only told a few people about it and they're really excited and I'm really excited. So, and you know, Pepperidge Farm makes little bitty gingerbread people only at Christmas time, but with frosting, I think I could just decorate each one to be a different character. Another idea that I heard, and I don't know if it's the stuff I shared, was ideas about Christmas pageants. And there were 2 ideas I heard, and I'm going for the second one. But the first one that some people have actually done before, only in worship, just have everybody come to worship dressed up for whatever character they want to be in the Christmas story. And then when you tell the story, those people kind of like wave or step forward or whatever. But the one I liked even better was give them the option to dress up if they want, but have everybody at the beginning of the service, when you want to tell the Christmas story, choose which character they're going to be and then give them an action. It's like have all the sheep go bah, or have all the innkeepers go no room, no room. And then as you read the story, when you say the name of whatever the thing is, they say and do whatever action you said all at the same time. So, and one person has used that in worship in person and is going to use it online. I thought that would be perfect. And the kids can come dressed up if they want, but the adults don't have to be dressed up, but everybody can have an action. And I kind of like that idea.
Another idea that I know is going to be used by the Hartford Street Church for a pageant, because they usually have their youth do a Christmas pageant. So they're going to basically send out scripts. A lot of the youth are multiple children households, so there can be 2 or 3, get the parents involved. In some cases, there's extended family that are part of the family unit, and have them record themselves in advance. Dress up however they want to dress up, to be the angel or the wise men or the shepherds or baby Jesus, and record themselves, send it in, and then just do the series of videos, either stitched together for one pageant, or you could do them more as like a lessons and carols, where the pageant videos accompany the scripture text. And if you have high trust in the people who will be doing that, you can invite them to write their own part. So invite them to respond themselves. If the story is the angel appearing to the shepherds, say, if you were a shepherd, how would you respond? You write your part, less than 2 minutes, and record yourself or your family acting this out and responding to the Christmas story. Any other pageant ideas that?
Well, you wouldn't even have to record. I mean, we're using Zoom live. You wouldn't even need to record that. If you could just let it. I mean, if you sent out a script or an order of worship, everybody knows when they're supposed to speak. They
you could do it live. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my colleague from seminary, Adam Cleveland, runs a ministry called Illustrated Ministry, and they've just released a virtual Christmas pageant that's probably a little more elaborate than what we would use, but it includes like Zoom backgrounds and music suggestions, a script, obviously. But I will put the link in there if you want a little bit more
cool,
elaborate Christmas pageant kit. It's $50 for the kit. I'm intrigued by it, but it probably looks like more work than I want to do.
I hear that.
So this isn't about pageant, but two other ideas I like that I'm trying to figure out how to use. One is, somebody pointed out to me, congregational singing is really hard, and our choir is trying to record enough voices and put them together to do a couple of Christmas carols for us during Advent. But somebody said, if you've got people who sing really well, they could even sing live on Zoom. It's just you can't do the multi voices at the same from different places on Zoom. So I'm trying to get some people to own up that they might be able to do that. But the other idea was for the Christmas Eve service to have everybody darken the room they're in, like maybe have a light in the other room or the hallway shining in, and then have everybody at the beginning of the service light a candle, and all those candles be the lights during the worship service, so that we'll get our candlelight Christmas Eve service together. And then somebody said, well, what about luminaries? And we always have luminaries outdoors, but what if we sent a luminary to each home and had them light their luminaries on Christmas Eve as well? Maybe put them in their windows to be our statement to the world about Christmas. I don't know. I'm getting hokey, but yeah, this.
Not hokey at all. Not hokey at all. One of our churches, Church in Wyndham, I'm probably going to forget the exact details. They're somehow connected with like a community farm. And so they're going to go there Christmas Eve and do an outdoor big Christmas Eve, get everybody spread apart, masked, but outside. And so they're going to go ahead and do some singing with everybody masked outside for Christmas Eve. And they're thinking that it could become kind of a community tradition, a new community tradition, to have an outdoor Christmas carol sing. So they're going to use this as an opportunity to get into the streets, as you will. Also, speaking about music, I hope you know, tomorrow night at 7 p.m., there is a virtual choir tutorial. If you're here and you got this link, that means right next to this announcement was the virtual choir tutorial announcement. One of the things we're going to be doing is creating a mass choir singing Joy to the World. And the woman who's leading the virtual choir tutorial is going to take the lead on that. And that will be available for any church to use. Beyond that, I have a vision, which probably won't be as good in reality. But what I'm planning to do, what I've started planting the seeds to do, is create a Google Drive and invite churches from across the denomination. It's going to be a Facebook post. So it'll be really a public Facebook post, anyone. Churches who have the capability to record and upload Christmas carols, Advent hymns, solos, orchestrated pieces, whatever. If they're willing to do that and make it shareable so anybody can use it, that will be the point. So any church would be able to go to this Google Drive and be able to use more complex music than a lot of our churches have the capability of producing themselves. My hope is there will be enough there for all of Advent and Christmastide, and we'll also use some of those for the December 27th worship service. So I'm
Cindy?
starting to push that out on Facebook, but yeah.
The Joy to the World thing, how do we invite our choir people to participate in that?
Yeah, so once Jennifer, who's the music director in Clinton, she has to lay down the accompaniment. So once she has the accompaniment, we'll be able to start pushing that out for people to participate. So, and basically the way it works, if you haven't done this before, I know Lee Wen's done this. You basically, you have the music coming through your headphones on like one device while you record yourself singing into another device. So like I would be recording myself on my phone. The phone wouldn't pick up the accompaniment. It only picks up my voice, but I would be able to hear the accompaniment. And so the phone records me, joy to the world, the Lord is come, whatever. All of those vocal tracks are brought together through a particular program and layered. So you've got all the different parts, you've got the accompaniment. And so since everybody's following the same accompaniment, more or less everybody's at the same beat, you know, more or less. And you end up with a finished whole product.
So as long as people have two devices, they could, and the ability to sing the right notes, they could participate.
And if they can't sing the right notes, the beauty about the more sophisticated programs, which music instructors are using, is they can lower the sound on that track. So your video can be there and your voice may not be, but you are there singing, even if your Joy to the World sounds more like, you know, peace on earth or something. I don't know.
Only joy to God's ears.
That's right. It's a joyful noise. Yeah.
I'd like to invite some of our choir members, I'd like to invite all our choir members to participate.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
They're not all very techie, so really clear instructions will be really important.
Yeah, yeah. We will make sure that really clear. And Jennifer works with a diverse choir, so she understands how to communicate that. Lee Wen?
Okay, so what we're doing right now, we're trying to record Oh Holy Night. We actually just started last week, and our choir members are not like technical either. So what we're trying to do is we're inviting one family at a time to come to church, and we're doing the recording for them. All they have to do is sing for us.
Nice.
And
So
I was going to say something similar. We've got our choir is trying to, we're not doing the pictures, just their voices being recorded. But some of our non-techie choir members just tried and couldn't do it. So now we've got somebody meeting them at church and recording them at church. And he's actually setting it up and stepping into another room while they sing, so that to keep that social distancing going on. But yeah, they got the recording.
Yeah, awesome. Good workarounds. Debbie.
So just keeping with the singing a little bit, just to elaborate on our ideas. Our congregation is really, music is a big part of our identity, huge part. So we're going to take each Sunday, I'm not going to use the lectionary, but we are going to use Advent hymns, and then during Christmas hymns all the way up to Epiphany. So this will sort of take the whole incarnational season. And we're going to focus on one hymn, and we're going to combine that then with a Bible study sometime the week before. So the worship service will focus upon the music and the text of one particular hymn, maybe a couple of hymns. We haven't determined which ones yet. And the Bible study will be the music director teaching about the music of that hymn, and then I'll be teaching about the text, and we'll just be exploring the text. So I think it'll be, I'm excited about it. I think I'm hoping it'll hold together to be interesting, to introduce people to some different Advent and Christmas music. We use the old blue Presbyterian hymnal, and I'm always amazed at how many Christmas hymns there are and how few Lenten Christmas hymns there are, or Lenten hymns, because Lent goes on forever and Christmas is so short. But so I think it'll be fun. We'll see what comes of it. And we also do Star Sunday, so we're going to do that also for Epiphany, on Epiphany.
And so, question in the chat: if you could send the hymn Bible study plan once it's kind of finalized.
Sure.
That'd be, yeah. And Peter had mentioned that they were thinking about Bible study. Any other Bible study ideas for Advent, Christmastide?
I'm here to receive them because I have a Wednesday night Bible study and I don't have a plan yet.
I saw an ad on PDA that they're putting out an Advent series. It's not saying it's not going to be, it's a part of their story productions. It didn't say there'd be a cost, so I'm assuming it's going to be free. They said the information will be coming, I think, the end of October. So I'm assuming any day there'll be more information. So that's one of the links I put in the earlier. I'm assuming that'd be Bible studies versus, a study conversations versus worship, but I don't know.
Sally, could you put that link in again, because I logged on late, so I don't have any of the chats that preceded when I joined.
And actually, Mia, I'm gonna save the chat and edit it so it's more usable. And I have all your names. I will email it out.
Thank you.
I can't cut and paste from the chat. I've tried, so I'm depending on whatever Cindy puts out to get that information.
I promise.
I'll turn mine up.
Peter, do you have any thoughts that you were wanting to share around Bible study?
Yes. I was.
Oop, now you're muted.
Let's try that. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. In the past, what I've done is use I think it's the Borg book about Advent, which is a really great book. We used that a number of years, and there was one person in the congregation who looked forward to it. There's an accompanying one for Easter too. It just sort of gives the contrast, that sort of basic Bible, but it's so well presented. Last year we did a Blue Christmas, and I saw that one of the resources that you sent, Cindy, was the Blue Christmas book. Has anybody done any Bible studies around Blue Christmas?
Just the worship service itself.
Just the worship service. It was a very powerful worship service last year. This year, wondering what people have used in the past, out of curiosity, just trying to pick people's brains.
Sure. And Mia's got her hand raised. Mia?
Yeah, apropos of Bible studies during Advent, I'm not proposing a particular Bible study, but I don't know if any of you remember the book that Sarah Folger wrote. Maybe it's already 10 years ago by now, called Yards of Purple. And it has really lovely short stories in it. And there are 4 short stories for each of the lectionary years. And then there's one common one for Christmas Eve or something. I know that. So it does hang somewhat on the lectionary and generates a lot of really wonderful conversation. And my congregation has really enjoyed that resource.
Do you share the name and author of the book in the oh, there it is. I see it already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
One idea that I was considering for Advent Bible study, although I'm really intrigued by Mia's book suggestion, was keeping it very simple. So I have sometimes in other hectic seasons used the Pray As You Go app or meditations as just sort of guided meditation, and then follow that up with discussion and sharing about what people experience. So that's daily lectionary, and it's done by, I think, some Ignatians or Jesuits. But they're set to really beautiful music if you're not familiar with it, and they read the scripture once. It's like somewhere between Lectio Divina and Ignatian reading. Each one is about 11 to 13 minutes long. So for us, if we start with, I'm sorry, there goes my dog. If we start with 10 minutes of sharing updates and then 15 minutes on the devotion. It's the mailman. It's the highlight of his day. And then time for people to reflect on what they heard. It's super meditative and a little more contemplative than my people really love, but it's probably good for them to stretch in that direction. And it's zero work for me.
Yeah.
And will you put that in the chat?
I can't find it.
Sorry, Sally, I didn't hear you.
I just went looking for that app and it didn't come up. Pray As You Go is the
Pray
name
As
of
You Go. It's an app, and there's also a website. I'll put the website in the chat.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
That's great.
At the very top of the chat, which you'll see when I email it out, in a conversation yesterday, one of the pastors recommended 2 Facebook groups. So if you are somebody who finds a Facebook group a helpful place to engage, one is called Advent on the Brain, with a question mark. And that's an open group, that's a public group. You can just scroll through that. The second one is called Church, Christmas, and COVID. And again, both of those links will be in the chat download text I send out to you. That one is a private group, so you have to ask to be a member of that. But she had found both of those to be good places for conversation and bouncing ideas off of and refining possibilities. What about sermons? That was the other thing that was lifted up. Debbie has a beautiful sermon idea that's really great for her congregation in East Craftsbury with hymns. What other things are you thinking of this year?
I was wondering if the book that Mia suggested, if the stories in there are sermon length, and if they would be appropriate to use as preaching. I'm not typically one to just read something else that somebody else wrote, but if it's really good.
That's a good question. I guess they are possibly a little bit, depends on how long your sermons are, but they would run a little longer than how long I generally preach. But they're very conversational. So it could generate, I don't know if you would think about doing a service in which there is a give and take where people are responding and reflecting to the story. Yeah.
And Peter, you had mentioned Borg's book. Did you mean The First Christmas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's Borg, and I'm trying to remember the other author.
That's okay. It helps us find it. Would that be sermon material as well?
Yeah, it could. You could use some of the sermon. You could use it in sermons. Yeah. Yeah. Sort of untangling the way in which we sort of push all the gospels together and sort of pulling it out.
I mean, I'm still
not dying. I'm not Diane. This is Marcy Clark, but I've been sitting here listening. I'm part of the worship team. Many years ago, when Sarah Folger was the pastor here, she often used the book that was by Catherine Patterson, full of great Christmas stories. And it's been around a long time, but you know, Middle Winter, you know, fantastic, and from our presbytery, but the Star Lady especially. But she has some great Christmas stories that certainly could be used as a sermon or be part of a sermon. So.
And you could use children's books.
Yes.
So if you want to, I mean, so there are a lot of kids' books around the different events at Christmas, and Presbyterian Publishing Corporation Flyaway Books has some new stuff too. So that could be another way to, instead of creating a sermon in the midst of all this, another way to engage the word. Mia?
Just a word of warning with that. One Advent season, I took the favorite children's story that we would read every year at home, called The Christmas Miracle of Jonathan Toomey. It's just a beautiful book. And so I expanded the children's sermon to be the adult sermon, or I said today the children's sermon is getting the spotlight and the adults can listen in. And but unfortunately, I literally blubbered my way through the whole book because it's so beautiful. I always cry when I read it, and I don't know why it didn't dawn on me that I would be crying. So be careful if it's a real tearjerker.
I guess there's a question to ask here too. That's not what I thought you were going to say, Mia, about what is okay to read aloud if they're other people's words and you're streaming them onto Facebook or something. Are there concerns there about that? I hadn't actually thought about that.
Yeah.
My guess is as long as you give credit.
And so, yeah.
I don't
In
know.
the spring, Bill Marie was reading books from Flyaway Books on Facebook and doing a live streaming event. And she did get permission for that because the whole event was reading the book, but they were fine with that, especially with the citation given.
Yeah, I think Flyaway Book has given permission for those to be used broadly, but I've seen, and some other publishers have as well, but I think you have to kind of be careful. So it may be reaching out to ask for permission. It seems hard to believe that would be the case if you're giving them credit and reading it, but yeah, I think it is something we have to look into.
Integrated with more when you're going live. If you're recording, it becomes a whole nother issue.
Yeah. And a big piece in that is whether you're making any money off of it. So
I think maybe book publishers are a little less uptight about all that than music publishers. I don't know. Maybe. And I think you're right, Sally. If you're not recording it and reposting it on YouTube for, eternity, then I don't really care what we do live. Nobody's going to catch us. Like, it happens, it's gone. But the stuff that gets recorded, I do worry about.
Another resource that I've used as part of the sermon have been the poems. I think it's Anne Weems who wrote Kneeling in Bethlehem and then also Kneeling in Jerusalem. But some of them are really lovely.
Barry Shepherd also has a lot of really good poetry around Christmas, Advent and Christmas.
Yeah. And in fact, he's got several books that he always that are really Advent Christmas devotional poems, and they're all for sale. And the proceeds go to support the local ministries there in the greater Mid-Coast area.
On the Bible study, and maybe this is what Borg does. I don't remember that book, but is I've done Bible study on what the Christmas story is. So just comparing Matthew and Luke, which actually there's no comparison, but just opening it up for people and helping them see that these are two very different stories with very different contexts and purposes and so forth and so on. And it sort of opens their eyes. We still go back to type, putting it all together and telling one Christmas story, but they're a little better informed.
It helps them see the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would hope that it helps them enter into the Christmas story at a different level, a little bit deeper.
Hey, Rob.
I haven't said anything because it's like I said, I don't have much to bring, but
It's all good.
A question, like, are you all thinking about post-election and how that may inform Advent? Just assuming maybe chaos, assuming division and unsettledness, violence. I just wondered if there are resources or thoughts about that theologically, whatever.
Diane?
So I have been talking about doing a series on Advent blues, but a series and sort of drawing on the blues. And I think to a certain extent, I can see that working with, well, it depends, really how things go. But I'm really liking the hymn idea better.
There's so much that's unknown right now.
Yeah.
So many pieces. Debbie and then Tracy.
I think, thank you for bringing that up. My compartmentalizing has taken over and I wasn't integrating all of that. So thank you, that's really helpful. I think that the Blue Christmas service is going to be a place because no matter what happens, about half our country is going to be lamenting. And it could very easily erupt into deeper violence and so forth and so on. And it could be that you need a response sooner than you would normally do a Blue Christmas kind of thing. Although we're not going to know the outcome of the election for some time. So it might dovetail fairly well, but that you might be able to use that as a place of lament.
Yeah. Tracy?
I was just going to say, I'm finding it very hard to plan very far ahead just because we don't know what's going to happen. And so I think that has stymied me a little bit too, I think, and just in general, and whether we should be, what numbers are going to be, or what, for lots of things, practical or otherwise, and the state of the world. Who knows what the state of the world will be like. But one resource that I was going to mention too, just in terms of lament, is, it was hard for me to find, and so I'm trying to remember. There's a group called The Many that has also offered videos for use for free on live streaming too, that have, it's through the Plural Guild, I believe, is where pluralguild.org, I think, is the website where you can connect to The Many or find the resources. But they also offer a weekly, and I forget it too, whether it's 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock on Wednesdays, a lament service that they do Facebook Live. And I got to catch a little bit of it last week, and it was really wonderful. And I would recommend that just personally, and also then, and again, I only got to half kind of listen to it, but before I put it out to our congregation, I just wanted to kind of experience it and see what it was like. But maybe others, Rob, it looks like you are familiar with that too, but I think it's a good thing and would recommend that.
Those are great suggestions. Thank you all. It's great.
And I put that link in the chat, pluralguild.com. So what about Christmas Eve? That was one of the other pieces that was lifted up as a place where conversation would be appreciated.
Just name, it was already lifted, but the power of being in the dark on your screens, it really worked. I did it with a meeting last night on climate justice stuff, and we just all turned. It worked. So I lift that. I'm going to use that. Whoever mentioned that earlier, thank you.
Cool. Yeah, Sally?
Lost my controls. But we actually did that for Maundy Thursday, and it was very powerful when we did it on Maundy Thursday. But we're talking about sermon ideas, and whether it's for Christmas Eve or another, that something I found powerful at different times over the years is act out different characters in the for your sermon. Just take on the persona of a different person, and that ties into what you were mentioning, Rob Mark, about the time of turmoil, because when Jesus was born, it was a time of turmoil. Yeah. And it's easy then to wrap that into, but I had fun one year, spent a whole sermon talking about the angel host. And I actually had the bulletin cover was an angel all in armor with weapons. I said, this is what it's talking about. And this is why the first thing they say is fear not, which I think maybe we need to hear this year, the fear not. So I didn't dress up as an angel though, but it's just my idea.
And there's always the invitation to retell this living word in a contemporary way. So what would Christmas be like in COVID with stay-at-home orders and mask orders and red states, not because of politics, but because of disease? Which may not be very lighthearted and fuzzy, but the first Christmas was really a shocking thing.
And no room at the inn.
And no room at the inn.
Is everyone in this group doing strictly online for Christmas Eve, or are some people thinking of having some kind of gatherings?
Yeah, Tracy?
We've talked actually at the church, there's really no place for everybody to stand safely around the church. We're kind of on a hill and not a big space that works well, but across the river actually, and so kind of around from the church, but where you can see the church is a member of our congregation that has a big field. And so I think we're going to do something outside and light each other's candles, say a few brief words, have some music. We probably won't sing because, but we'll somehow have some music. And so I imagine it being maybe a 20-minute service, or if we're, depending on how cold it is in Vermont on that day. But I think the congregation is up for it. We had an outdoor service last Sunday and it was about in the 30s, and we had more people at our outdoor service than we had when it was a beautiful sunny Sunday morning. So I think they're up for being outside and want us to be together, I think. So so I think we're going to try it, but we'll see. We haven't worked out details yet, but that's what we're thinking.
Another idea that occurred to me is if you are using Zoom as a platform or something that's interactive as a platform, you could do things like having people show off their Christmas decorations and talk about decorations that have special meaning to them, ornaments or other items that are really special or have significance in their culture. You could also, I remember sometimes doing like the Advent, what was it called, where you went from house to house for different things, and by the time you got to the last house, you're like, I can't eat another bite. But you could also do kind of a Christmas cookie gathering as well online. Have people again talk about the those Christmas cookies, those Christmas dishes that are traditional and part of what makes the holiday special. And so other ways beyond just the worship services or traditional Bible study to connect and share our homes and spaces with one another, which may be the only reason why I would decorate this year, to be quite honest. Any other ideas? Marcy, go ahead.
She's going to unmute me. You're good. This is a little bit off of Christmas, but I've just come from a Zoom meeting. The reason I was late, of the Main Council of Churches, and I am the PCUSA rep. This is not Christmas, but I faithfully have to pass this on to you. The Main Council of Churches did not do this, but our executive director, who is PCUSA, Jane Field, was part of it, as was Rich Ellison, who's Marvin Ellison, who's also PCUSA. No matter what your political bent, I would commend to you defending democracy faithfully. It is a 4-minute video, which Cindy, you may have already seen and you know about. Yeah. It is moving. it is extremely moving since we've kind of touched on elections. It's powerful. You can use it. It's on Venmo. Look at it for your own use. You may feel that you can pass it on, but then again, you can't. Maybe you can't. But defendingdemocracyfaithfully.com, and each of those words starts with a capital letter.
Thank you. I'm gonna try to type that in and find it. Okay, great. So I'll put that in the chat as well. Anything that you want to be sure to share or speak into this space before we close up this conversation?
I'm just really glad you pulled us together to talk about this. So thank you.
I just thought it might be helpful. Sorry, Rob. And I want to celebrate that we have people from all 4 states covered by these 2 presbyteries gathered in this space. I always love when that happens, and it's one of the things I'm grateful for, that even though we've been forced into using this technology, that means that we've been able to gather in some really creative ways. And I'm grateful for that. So I will, process the recording of the conversation and clean up the chat so it's legible and usable. I will email all of you directly the chat and the recording link, but then they will also be posted on the websites under the resources for COVID in the worship section. Does that all make sense? Cool. Awesome. And if you have choir people, be sure to keep an eye out for the Joy to the World invitation. And if you have choir programs and you are recording music, or you have people who'd be willing to do a solo or a piece of special music, I would love to have more music than we could ever use in that Google Drive. I guess I'll have to find out if there's a storage limit. I don't know. I haven't looked at that. That'd be great to max it out. That'd be fantastic.
Will we be able to just upload stuff there ourselves directly if we want to share things?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're recording all of our music, so I don't have any. We're only working a few days ahead of time, but
I hear that.
But once as it's recorded, assuming my pianist and my vocalist don't mind, I'd be happy to share ours.
That's awesome. And I don't know if you all know this, so maybe I'll be right back. I'll share one last possible resource.
She ran away.
The Glory to God hymnal has an app. It's not the best app in the world, but it's there. And
better than the PCUSA website?
I use it anyway. Anyway, so if you used any parts of the September worship service that we put together, and there were 2 hymns in that, that's doing a thing. Those were just the Glory to God app. If the hymn is in public domain, the whole recording is there. And if you can just hit, so that's what I do. Let's go to 1 because they updated the app and now it's actually worse than it was. I hate it when that happens. So hymn number 1 is Holy, Holy, Holy. Whoops. And so it's all 4 parts. And I just sang over the top of it to, again, my phone, doing a voice memo recording. And that's how those hymns were in the September, whatever day that was, service. And a lot of the Christmas hymns, less so the Advent hymns, but a lot of the Christmas carols are public domain. So it's a simple way to have really good, all 4 parts accompaniment, and somebody with a strong enough voice to sing the melody at least. Yeah. Well, thank you all. Thanks for taking the time to be on another Zoom call. But God bless you as you seek to help these congregations and yourselves enter into the season of Advent and Christmastide. I pray that you will find light in so much that is dark, both physically as the days are shorter, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I pray that you all find places of light and find a way to share that light in this coming season. And feel free to reach out if there's anything else we can do to help you make it through. All right. Thank you all.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Everybody.